Hello and welcome back to a new UiPath demo. In this video, we'll use data table activities to filter data based on specific criteria and output the results to a new file. Let's imagine the following business scenario. We have a database with employees and we need to extract the name of those that meet certain criteria. This kind of process is very common in every HR department today. Let's begin. Here, we have an Excel file containing a list of employees, which contains columns for name, age, work domain, current job, and salary. It has around 300 entries. A standard way of working with Excel files is extracting the data, storing it in data table variables, and performing different manipulations to obtain the desired information. Once this is done, the data can then be written to the same file or to a new Excel file. This demo is based on the standard approach. The first thing that we'll do is to read the data in the file. Let's add a workbook read range activity, name it properly, specify the file path, and create the output variable in the output data table property. In our case, since we want to get all of the data in the file, we'll leave input range field from the properties panel empty. Note that since our file contains headers, we leave the add headers property checked. Next, we want to extract the names of the employees younger than 30 and with an income of more than 100,000. We'll use the filter data table activity and the filter wizard button to customize the filter criteria. Let's update the name of our activity. First, we need to provide the input data table. Secondly, we need an output data table. Since we don't want to create a different data table with the filtered results, we can enter the same variable. Let's use the keep option and specify the column that we want to filter. Age is one of them, and we'll type its name in the name column. Then we'll choose an operation. The age should be less than 30. That requires the less than operator in place. Then set the value to 30.00. Keep in mind that it's mandatory to add the .00, otherwise filtering will fail. Now, we want to add the condition related to the income. We'll simply click the plus button next to the value and add a new condition is displayed below. Note the and before the condition. It's crucial because we want to add this filter criterion apart from the other one. However, if we click on and, we'll see it changes to or. Now that's useful if we want to filter the data according to multiple conditions, which don't need to be true at the same time. For instance, we might want to find everyone who is under 30 or earns over 100,000 a year. But for now, let's click or to switch back to and then enter income. This time, we want to identify everyone who earns more than 100,000. Obviously, we need to choose the greater than operator and then type the value input of 100,000.00. Note that all numeric data read from Excel through the read range operation is interpreted by UiPath as double. So, the values used for comparison in the filter wizard for these columns should always be formatted accordingly, like we did in this example. Now let's click the Output Columns tab. Here, we can enter the specific columns to be processed. We want to keep all of them, so we'll leave this tab as it is and click OK to close the filter wizard. Let's see how we could save the filtered information into a data table with a different format. We'll add a Build Data Table activity right after Filter Data Table. We'll use it to store the filtered data table. In the Build Data Table wizard, we'll delete the existing columns and create 3 new ones: name, age, and income. All will be of data type string and will have Allow Null disabled. Let's call the new data table Achievers DT. Let's update the activity name and then create the new variable in the Properties panel in the Output Data Table field. Now here's a very important part. the for each row activity. We'll use it to iterate through each individual row in the filtered data table and extract only the information that we're interested in. We're going to iterate through the input dt variable and use the getRowItem activity, which outputs the value of a specific cell from the current row. To indicate which cell we want, we'll use the current row, indicated by the row item and the column's name. Using the column name is more reliable than the index, since it doesn't need to be modified if other columns are added or removed. As for the output, we'll create a new variable. In our case, we're extracting the value in the name column for the current row, and we're storing it in the name string variable. Let's also rename our activity by adding name at the end. Great! Now let's replicate the activity for the next information that we're interested in and rename it. This time, we'll set the column name to age and create a variable called age for the output value. Let's go to the Variables panel and set age to a system double variable type. Besides the getRowItem, we can also use the assign activity for the same purpose of extracting the information from a certain cell. For this, we'll define a new variable and use the row.itemArray method. To show you another way to do this, we'll use the index of the column that contains the data of interest. Let's return to the Excel file. In our case, income is the 5th column, but since the count starts from 0, we'll enter 4. We will follow the expression with toString. Let's also create our income variable inside the to field. And of course, we'll rename the activity. Once we have the information from the 3 columns that we're interested in, name, age, and income, let's use an addDataRow activity to add the data to the new AchieversDT variable. The 2 important parameters here are the name of the data table variable to add into, in our case, AchieversDT, and the data to add, in our case, in the form of an array. The array is specified as a comma-separated list, enclosed in braces or curly brackets. So now, for each row in the file, the process will read the name, age, and income, and it will add the data to the empty data table created earlier. And that's it. We'll save the data table into a new file using Excel activities. Let's add an Excel application scope, specify the output file, and add a write range activity where we specify the AchieversDT variable and enable the add header options. Everything is in place now, so let's run the process. And here's our result file with the filtered results. And this is it. Before we end the video, let's quickly recap what we've learned in this demo. The standard way of working with Excel files is by storing data in data table variables and performing different data manipulation activities to obtain the desired result. To obtain all of the data within an Excel file by using the UiPath Workbook Activities Read Range activity, make sure to set the range field to empty. The filter wizard can be accessed when using the filter data table activity. Every time we added numeric values in the filter wizard, we type in the number value followed by .00, otherwise filtering will fail. If we wanted to filter data by multiple conditions that are not necessarily all true, we can toggle the condition criterion button from the filter wizard to OR. By default, the button is set to AND, which is used when we want multiple criteria which are all true. To indicate which column we want to process, we used the column's name since it tends to be more reliable, but the index is always an option too. And this was it for this demo. Thanks for watching and happy automation!